Planishing my chance, no you dance, but I can't, so I had to give the nigga like the money. The damn funny's all I get in reply.
Happy Monday.
Tell me why you feel like you gotta lie. I'm saying, yo, quit playing while you fronting on me. Scroll up,
Hope y'all had a good weekend. Hope y'all feeling good this week. Today, we're going to touch on a few things. You already know we're going to go over some shit with George Santos. You already know we're going to go over some, well, I don't know about if you already know, but we're going to talk about Tesla. We're going to talk about Elon Musk. A funny comment that Rick Ross said about Tesla cars. And then I'm going to touch on Justin Roiland, one of the guys from, what's it called, Rick and Morty. I haven't really talked about that, but we're going to look at the Bruce Rivers criminal lawyer video. You know what I'm saying? I got my pid today. Got my bong over there, but I'm already hopped up. You feel me? So we straight. So we gonna get into it. We gonna start off with Justin Roiland. What up, Scott? How you doing, my brother? Appreciate you for being here. We gonna start this week off right. Actually, tomorrow is my 31st birthday. So, you know, there's that, I guess. But let's get into it. We gonna roll. Woo! All right, so you know, I'm like we went over before. My channel's still relatively new, as well as I'm not always going to cover everything that every other news outlet's talking about or that every other progressive is talking about. Just because, you can't always cover everything. And I say that just because I haven't gone over the Justin Roiland, Rick and Morty thing yet. It's really not that much to say about it because, other than he's fucking gross and stupid and sick. But we're going to go over this Bruce Rivers, the criminal lawyer. We're going to go over some of the things he said. But again, I didn't really pay much attention to it. Again, not that I didn't care, but, it's just a million stuff going on all the time. So you can't catch everything. But when I saw the details about the stuff he was saying to this 16-year-old girl, it's like, obviously not only is it stupid and wrong and, you're in the position you're in. So it's like even more likely to get you caught up in stuff just because you're such a public facing person. But also it's like it was just fucking weird and lame. So we gonna go over that now. So let's check that out. Yeah, this dude is just fucking weird. When I look more into it, I was like, what the hell is wrong with this dude? But let's check it out. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. What he do? He gonna tell you about all the stealth snitching. I think that's the intro. Let's see if I'm right.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self snitching.
I was close.
Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer. In fact, I'm in trial right now, so it's the end of the day, so we thought we'd give a little bit of a shout-out to our content genius, Michael Rivers, because he's going on a film expedition to the Sundance Film Festival, so before he goes, we got to put a few in the can. Before we get to reacting to what we're reacting today, and today we're reacting to Justin Roiland and some news going on.
What up, lady?
This episode is brought to you by
you,
eSign.com. That's eSign.com. eSign.com is an excellent way. Let's say you're working for, that's what you need to do. So now, today we're reacting to Justin Roiland. Justin Roiland is a big part of Rick and Morty, and it's a popular cartoon. Okay, and Adult Swim is the entity that owns it, and they've ended their association with Justin Roiland. Why did they do that? Well, he's got some domestic assault charges, and he's got some disturbing messages with a 16-year-old girl. Now, here's the thing, gentlemen. I'm going to speak to the gentleman primarily here. Putting your hands on anybody, and I've preached this, it has implications for you, especially if you're in a high-profile role, like Mr. Roiland. And we're going to get to a video and react to a video of him in a minute. if you got some predilections, you got to check those predilections before they check you.
Facts.
And I'm saying that because, I do care about my guys. I care about everybody out there.
Facts.
Right? When you get somebody who's in a domestic violence situation and they're the abuser, they're almost the most difficult people to deal with. They're very, very, very difficult to deal with. But there's certain ramifications to a domestic assault charge that really implicate a lot of other rights that you have. For example, you get a domestic assault charge, you can't own a firearm in most states and federally. If you get a domestic assault charge, very difficult to get a job or housing. People don't realize the widespread implications of getting a domestic abuse charge on your record. Let's say I am, in my 30s, and I decide, I think I'd like to date somebody in their teens. Not a good idea. Let's listen to this conversation that Mr. Royland had.
Crazy, like when we were fucking 100 years ago, it was little 13-year-old girls, if they were built like a woman, they were getting married and having kids.
Really? Well, that was 100 years ago before, anybody had any idea that where you could do shit on your farm and nobody's going to report it or even look at it. They could beat the shit out of anybody on your ranch and nobody cared. Or people cared, but no one's going to report it. We live in a different era.
And now we're going to be all precious about it. I keep using the word
Now we're going to be... He's talking about 13-year-old girls.
precious today. That's the word of the week.
Which is a movie about a child molester.
Precious!
Right?
Your Down syndrome baby.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, I'm not a pedophile, though. I do
I'm
follow
a
the law.
pedophile.
Generally speaking, when you have to profess you're not something, you probably got something in there. So if you have to say I'm not a pedophile...
Right. He's like, I'm not a pedo, but 13 and 14-year-old girls, if this was 100 years ago, I'd totally be all over that. You know what I'm saying? But now it's kind of illegal. But I'm only not all over I'm only not all over them because we live in modern times. I mean, that's basically what he said. But that wasn't even like the private conversation. Exactly. Like, what a terrible disclaimer. Like, you say that, and by the way, I'm not, but yeah, no, that again, and that isn't even the conversations that he had, the domestic abuse aside, but the shit that he was sending to this 16-year-old girl was.
Look, I'm not a pedophile.
I wait till they're 18 if
I wait till they're 18. What the fuck? Who says shit like this?
Right.
I'm ever
I wait till they're 18. I keep a close eye on them. Up until then, I scout. When I go to junior high school basketball games. I scout the crowd. I scout the state. Like, I mean, and then I wait till they're 18 and then I pounce. Like, I mean, that's basically what this dude just said. It's like I wait till they're 18, and I'll say this: I'll be 31 years old tomorrow, right? And like I generally, I like younger women like any other man, but below like 23 is like I'm only 30, but below that is, yeah, sure, an 18-year-old woman is legal, but the maturity difference, the life experience difference. Women who are 18, 19, 20, 21 are fucking broke. Like, not like, there's a difference between like, I'm paying my bills and I'm struggling to make ends meet, but I work and I have a resume and I have experience, and I'm 19 and I haven't fucking done anything in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, why the hell, so even at that, it's like, no, like they're just women again, like beneath like 24, 23. It's like, like what are we doing? And again, it's legal, but this guy, he took it a step beyond that, because like if there's an older man and he's dating like a 19, 20-year-old or even 18, you might be like, oh, that's kind of weird, but it's legal. But he's like, I wait until they're 18, and that kind of implies that implies quite a bit. Like, this dude's a fucking creep.
lucky as to have the
If I'm ever so lucky as to what? As to,
right, Scott.
There's a lot of different dynamics that go into relationships, right? There's a power differential. When you have like Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton, for example. She's 21 years old, she's an intern, and he's the president of the United States, and there is that tendency to, you just have a vast power differential where you could abuse somebody and abuse your position of trust. And that's really what it is a position of trust. if I'm ever so lucky as to, I mean, that is one of the creepiest things I've heard in a long time. It's like, I want them just barely legal.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
here's the thing. You can only screw so much. You eventually have to talk to the woman, right? And hopefully you're not just in this just because there's got to be more to it. There just has to be more to it. That's why people who are domestic abusers, they sort of look at things that they're entitled to. You know, you're not listening, so I have to beat you, and then you'll love me more. Ridiculous, right? Of course it is. So are statements like this. So when you have a high profile position like Mr. Royland, and you got a very popular show, you have to be ultra aware of who you are in the community, how you're perceived, and act accordingly. He's texting a 16-year-old. I have school tomorrow. You should just run away from home and go into sex slavery, you fucking stupid bitch. You wish.
Okay, so he's texting someone and I have school tomorrow. I haven't heard anybody say that in quite some time because I'm an adult. And I mean, how old is this dude's like in his mid Justin Roiland? Well, let's look it up actually. I think he's like mid to late 40s or some shit like that. You know, let's look this up exactly. How many years should it have been? Okay. How many years should it have been since he last heard someone say that? Okay, he's 42. All right. So he's been out of high school for quite some time. I ain't heard no. I have school. People in college don't say that. You know what I'm saying? People, motherfuckers in college. Oh, I have school tomorrow. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be in one building all day long, and if I leave, I'll get in trouble for truancy. Like, bro, you're talking to little kids. And then what did he say? He said you should run away and go work for a sex cam website, you stupid bitch. Hold on, let's rewind that. I think that's what he said.
School tomorrow. I have school tomorrow. You should just run away from home and go into sex slavery, you fucking stupid bitch.
What? Like that's not even like normal like creep shit. You know, like if this dude was in what's poppin', Joey? But you know, again, like Justin Roiland, like the stuff that he said to her, it's not even like normal like creep stuff. Like it's not even like he's trying to set up a date or trying to get like, again, obviously that would be horrible, but it's like what is he thinking? Like, who the fuck talks to people like this? You should, and he put it in all caps. You can see it right there. He said, you fucking stupid bitch in all caps. No. He called her a faggot bitch. That's what it says right here. It said, he didn't read that. He says, you fucking stupid faggot bitch. Like, Jesus Christ. I mean,
You wish you. Why would he say that to somebody? Now, when you text somebody, they can be a permanent record. And if you're a public figure like this, you're 42 years old. Why are you doing this? Why? What benefit?
right, not only are you 42, but you're one of the most important parts of a very popular show. Like go fuck some 20-something-year-olds. Go fuck some 30-something-year-olds, 40-something-year-olds. Go screw some hot MILFs in their 50s and 60s. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Benefit can come from doing this. It makes no sense to me. So then he's talking to this young lady, and he says, once you turn 18, you just start cam whoring.
Oh yeah, Jenny, you're right. That's what women love. You know what I'm saying? You gotta let them know. You gotta let them know what place they have in society.
You just start cam whoring.
And then he told her he should start.
Why would you do that? So then he goes on to say, why are you such a jailbait? What's wrong with you in that regard? You should just grow older, you dumb bitch. Now, Why would you call even if you thought somebody was a dumb bitch? Honestly, why would you use that kind of language?
Well, see, Scott, the difference between like Justin Roiland and Andrew Tate, we're not going to see the same type of defense for Justin Roiland as Andrew Tate, because Justin didn't have the same type of like appeal to the masses. Like, until this shit happened, I mean, who knew about Justin Roiland? You know, at the end of the day, we live in an entertainment culture that's rather superficial. So most people who are front facing are very good looking, in really good shape, and have something going on that's like a magnet. So for Andrew Tate, cars, girls, money, clubs, you know, he fits that image, but Justin Roiland does not. So like, people generally we're not going to see the same type of stuff, because Andrew Tate represented and still represents like a path to immortality, or a path to like basically what men should be. But Justin Roiland, like, you know, who the fuck is he really, until all of this came out? So that's the difference, which is sad, but that's the difference.
And maybe I'm just old fashioned, and maybe I'm just square, because I don't call women bitches. You know, I mean, I call some of my golf buddies bitches. You know, I mean, kidding around, but women don't need that. Is it cool being jailbait? Does the FBI follow you around, arresting all the men you sleep with? What the fuck? This is a really screwed up conversation. Maybe I will. I want to meet you in real life, jailbait, so I can't help not be a homo.
What?
I'm Atlanta drunk. Texting. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And so the minute you see, you know, they tell you the age and you continue the conversation, you're breaking the law. Period. You're soliciting a minor. So when you have this high profile position, you can't be drunk and careless. And that's what that was. My point number one is keep your fucking hands off a woman. There is absolutely no reason to hit a woman. Period. You know, there's other. You walk away. And any guys that say, "Oh, there's a situation where shut the fuck up." There's just never a situation where you put your hands on a woman. I'm old fashioned. That's just a hard and fast rule for me, and guys should follow that rule. Because guess what? Even if you are justified, like in self-defense, that kind of stuff, you're going to jail. She's not going to go to jail. Secondly, if you are on the prowl, keep your chicks within your sphere. Keep them within your age group. You know, you don't sit there and think, oh my God, she's so hot, she's young. No, don't do that. Because if they're underage, you are breaking the law, and it might not even be a real person. It might be a cop.
Right.
I've had many cases where the cops pose, and there's no defense to it because they tell you what their age is. So, and then especially if you're one of these guys that have a higher profile position, especially when you've got a national show, and now he's canceled. So he had the world by the balls, pardon the pun, and now it's gone. So my point.
Yeah. Justin Roiland is like totally disgraced. Imagine how he must feel. You know, not that you should have sympathy for him, but like, it's just interesting to think, you know, everybody's human. And when you're like, imagine how he must really feel that he, you know, like worked his way to this place. And not only did he throw it all away, but over some shit like this. And on top of that, the public knows about it. So like, this dude, the only chance he would have at public redemption really is in another lifetime. He totally ruined his life. And then again, the text that he sent to are just fucking weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Like, who the hell says shit like this? Not it. But you know, people out here, man. People be out here on that bullshit. Oh, we got some Andrew Tate updates. What's happening? Well, I don't know if this is really an update, but apparently he shows his first sign of fear in recent message while imprisoned in Romania. So let's see what he says. Former kickboxer turned controversial social media star Andrew Tate has become a topic of debate over the past few weeks. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, people are talking about if he's guilty or not. Okay. Tate has stood for a long time. Tate has stood firm for a long time, and that the reason he moved to Romania is he believed that the country works freely due to its lenient laws. However, this has backfired in the worst possible way for Tate, who is currently serving time in jail. Moreover, he has now come out against Romania for treating him poorly after pinning how the country's law worked. So what do you say? Okay, so he said Romania is a communist country. Zero evidence and zero proof, only suspicions. They will lock you in jail and try to find you guilty of things. They will then waste your life as they fail, release you years later and not even apologize, he wrote. It seems that Tate is finally bringing to show cracks in his armor. For some time, Tate portrayed this to be a conspiracy against him, and he was pretty hopeful he would be released, but we know that that was not the case. And we saw pictures of Romanian prisons, and it's pretty crap. I mean, prison sucks regardless, but Andrew Tate is genuinely a multimillionaire, so to go from the lifestyle he was living to this, obviously, is a stark difference. But, I mean, the general commentary about this is, you know, he went from saying that Romania is the place to be because he basically could just pay his way out of situations. And now he's saying that they're communist, and him being, you know, in the right wing space overall. Why are you living in a communist country? You know what I'm saying? But even outside of that, it's just like, you know, a complete 180 in attitude. And then for you to say, oh, there's just suspicions, like you didn't bring any of this upon yourself. Like you didn't choose to make yourself the most searched man on earth by not just being incredibly misogynistic and calling yourself basically king of toxic masculinity or whatever, wearing that badge proudly, but you also released videos and wrote all over your website about how you did what you did, basically how your pimping operation worked. So, you know, this really just looks stupid. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like if you didn't have literally, you know, hundreds of videos out here of you saying the types of things that you say, then again, like I pointed out, he probably would have been able to at least get away with this for longer, if not forever, because he had money before he became this huge public presence. I mean, obviously not as much as he did afterwards with Tate University. I mean, Hustlers University and stuff like that. But you know, that's actually rather pathetic for him to, you know, be all over the internet saying, oh, I can just give Romanian guards money and they'll let me out. And now you're saying like, oh, it's so unfair. I'm being treated so unfair. Like I had nothing to do with this. I didn't bring this upon myself whatsoever. Like, so, and again, I don't even really have anything else to say in that regard, but, you know, tough shit, man. Tough shit. You did this to yourself. Now, what we got here? Burglar breaks into Seattle home and takes a bath with all his clothes on. This is what we call ethical burglary. Look, I know I broke into your house, but I didn't take anything. I just needed to clean myself. So I didn't even get naked. I didn't even indecently expose myself. You should be grateful. All right. A burglar was found fully clothed, enjoying a soak in the bathtub of the Seattle house he broke into Friday night, cops say. The female homeowner returned to her house to find a window had been smashed, then spotted the prowler lurking inside. She remained outside and called the cops, who eventually searched the home and discovered the unidentified clothed suspect relaxing in a bathtub of water. There's the broken window. Seattle police. The man was clothed but very wet, and the bathtub was full of water. The 27-year-old intruder was charged with residential burglary, and police said he did not come clean about why he broke in and took the bizarre bath. Well, I'm no rocket scientist, but I would be willing to bet that drugs have something to do with this. Because I mean, you know, people typically burglarize homes to steal things. So again, I'm pretty sure that this guy was just ripped out of his mind on something rather crazy. Probably not just that day either, probably for several days in a row. But yeah, you know, this is it, like I said, this is what you call ethical burglarizing. You break into somebody's home and you know, I ain't take nothing. Relax. Relax, woman. Relax, lady. I'm not stealing anything. I'm just taking a bath. I didn't even take my clothes off. Chill. What we got? Hey. Now, this is rather funny. We're going to talk about Rick Ross. Why are we going to talk about Rick Ross? Because he's saying about what he's saying about Tesla. Rick Ross says he would never ride in a Tesla because he fears a self-driving car could take him to the authorities against his will. And if you haven't paid attention, Tesla self-driving cars crash all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. He was doing his laundry while he was bathing. That's all it was. You know, like I said, he's an ethical criminal. You can't even be mad. He got out of there peacefully. But yes, if you paid attention, Tesla's self-driving cars often crash, even though I don't know how many years ago it was that Elon said like self-driving cars will be able to go from California to New York with no driver, just completely self-driven. Not only that, but you'd be able to make about $30,000 a year with like, you know, on DoorDash and Uber Eats and stuff like that with a self-driving Tesla. You could just tell it what to do while you're staying home. But, you know, of course, that's not true. And, you know, thus is the trials of Elon, as I call them, you know, the never ending trials of Elon. And we ain't done talking about Elon because apparently Elon is going to save us from nuclear war, which is absolutely hilarious. He's been up thinking so late and so hard about what we're going to do because nobody else can solve this problem but Elon Musk. Rick Ross said he's never ridden in a Tesla before. In an Instagram story shared Tuesday, Ross said he was afraid the cars could be remotely controlled. He also believed that the cars would be able to repossess themselves in the future. Rapper Rick Ross says he's steering clear of Teslas, fearing the semi-autonomous cars could take him places he does not want to go. I'm not going to say I won't have a smart car, but I've never ridden in a Tesla, never. And the reason being I've always had it. Hold on.
I'm not going to say I won't have a smart car, but I've never ridden in a Tesla. Never. And the reason being I've always had it in the back of my mind, the government could tap into the brain of the car.
That's what he said in Instagram on Tuesday. Ross, speaking to someone off camera, narrated an imagined scenario of an agent controlling a Tesla to bring him in for questioning.
Where's Rick? He's over there. Nah, bring him over for questioning.
Rick Ross said, pretending to be the agent. Ross continued his dramatization.
Where I'm going, it's leaving Wingstop. You pull up to the building and the agent walk out. Hey, Rick.
Ross later said he believed Teslas would be able to repossess themselves should their owners miss payments on the vehicles. Consequence of sound reported. Although no evidence exists that police and other government officials have even considered remote control of Teslas, hackers have found secret flaws within the vehicles over the years. All right. And goes on to just basically talk about how Tesla, you know, self-driving cars will crash themselves. I mean, because the bottom line is that the technology just isn't there yet. And that's okay. But the problem is when you're like, oh, it's totally fine. This will do this and that. And then it doesn't, of course. So that is Rick Ross saying he will not drive a Tesla and why he will not drive a Tesla. And, you know, I can't really blame him. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, we ain't done talking about Elon Musk because, you know, the genius is going to save us. What up, Jazzy? What up, Jazzy? You know what I'm saying? Appreciate you for being here. Elon Musk says nuclear war probability is rising rapidly. I've been up all night. Have been up all night to think of any possible way to de-escalate this war. Oh, yes, Elon. I've been up all night thinking about this. First of all, no, the fuck you haven't. You've been up all night thinking how the fuck you're going to get out of this $44 billion Twitter deal that you're stuck in. That's what you've been up all night thinking about. You've been up all night thinking about how Tesla lost over $500 billion in market cap last year. You're up thinking about how you lost $200 billion in net worth. You're up thinking about how basically everyone's on to your myth, the mythology of Elon Musk. Elon Musk is just a mascot for these companies. People are onto the fact that the Boring Company literally did nothing. It just created an underground tunnel for people with Teslas to drive from point A to point B. Didn't speed up traffic at all. Didn't do anything at all. You're up thinking about the fact that, you've lied about investments being secured and how, what else? All the technologies that you've said that was going to come out in 6 months and 12 months never happened. That's what you're up thinking about. How can, that man is apparently gonna help us to de-escalate from war. No one else can help it. No one else can do it. I don't even really care what this dude really got to say outside of just laughing at it. Because it's like, okay, well, what are your suggestions? Oh, well, he doesn't have any, of course, because he's just talking out of his booty because Elon Musk is a clown. But yes, Elon Musk, he's going to save us all from the inevitably approaching nuclear winter. You know what I'm saying? Now, we're going to watch a story. We're going to watch a story about what we got here. Puffing gasoline nearly ruined this man's life. Oh man, we gonna check this out. We watched one of these stories the other day about a meth psychosis. This one isn't as long, but this is about huffing gasoline, and why the fuck not? So let's do it. Be right back.
This is the tale of the single lowest point in my existence. Although after a lot of thought on the matter, I've decided to share my experience with inhalants, mainly gasoline huffing. The following takes place over several months, so bear with me. I was 15 at the time, had just started a new school after being dismissed from my last one for drug paraphernalia. I'd started smoking pot the previous summer, but before starting at my new school, my dealer had moved away after nearly getting busted by the cops while I was there and fucked about face, but that's an experience for another day. So I was generally feeling quite down, plus on top of that I had just begun using Valium recreationally a few months before and was starting to fiend for it. Well, needless to say, I was on a slippery slope, and when I started school I found it was hard to find others I could relate to. Although I had a few close friends outside of school, I was beginning to feel more and more isolated. The experience. Although I had very few friends to speak of, during my time at the new school I had met another dude with similar interests, though in retrospect I wouldn't consider them a friend as I stopped talking to them long ago. After 4 to 5 weeks of sobriety, I was sitting at home, bored and desperate to catch a buzz, and with no cannabis around, I was keen to try anything. This was when B suggested that we try huffing gas. I had tried butane before, but at the time never even knew you can get high off of gas. Holy shit, you can get fucked up off of something I've had in my garage this whole time? I replied. Yeah man, I thought you would know that, replied B. So without much more forethought, we were up in the garage crouched over my dad's large red boat gas tank. Worst decision I've made and probably ever will. I unscrewed the large cap on the tank, and peering inside I asked B what the best way to do it was, to which he answered, just stick your nose in there and take the deepest breaths you can as quick as you can. I asked him to show me what he meant, and before I had finished the sentence, he had his nose in there huffing away. After what seemed like 20 or so tokes, he stood up with a very dazed look on his face, saying, "Fuck, you gotta try this, man." Well, seeing how inebriated B appeared to look, I immediately put my nose into the huge can and began to huff. The first few burned my nose so bad I had to stop mid-huff and take my nose out just to stop the burning. But soon the effects began to take hold.
Probably a good sign that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Obviously, these are troubled kids, but that's probably your body letting you know, don't do this again, motherfucker. Please, for the sake of me and you, don't huff in this burning ass bullshit. Now, this is extreme. God damn. Let's continue.
And by the time I had taken my 10th huff, I began to experience auditory hallucinations. These infamous noises are known as the ding-dings in my circle of friends. Other people who have tried inhalants will know what I mean. By the 20th hit, these ding-dings had increased to such an intensity it felt almost deafening. And as I stood up, a huge wave of the strange warm fuzziness hit me. It felt not unlike my previous experience with butane, although to a much greater degree with gas. As the high progressed, it began to take on more of a drunk quality, almost like sculling a six-pack, but with a slight rush to it.
Are you sick of having issues with your webinars,
This sounds
wasting tons of
extremely
time
unfair.
on troubleshooting with attendees? If so,
At this point, B and I were stumbling around my garden like lunatics, laughing at the absurdity of it all. Things in my peripheral vision began to shift, and I began to see what I can only explain as slight heat shimmering type visuals, like when you see heat coming off the road on a hot day. The delirium we were in soon began to taper off after this. I'd say the whole experience was only 10 minutes in all, including after effects. It was definitely not worth it if I had known what was coming later in life, but at the depths of depression, I was just stoked that I had found something that got me high. I didn't try gas again till the following weekend, when after another miserable week at school, I found myself fiending for that rush again. This may sound ridiculous, and in hindsight, I could see how stupid it was, but at the time it seemed like all logical thought just went out the window. I either didn't think it would do me any harm, or I just didn't care. But either way, I abused gasoline, and to a lesser extent butane, occasionally, 3 to 4 times a month, for the next 3 months, until one night after a long huffing session, I opened the garage door and began to walk down the garden path in a benzene-induced stupor, strung out in my own little world, and I failed to notice my dad standing on the deck outside his room. He was very anti-drug at the time, and we regularly had arguments over my habitual cannabis use when I was younger. He tried to talk to me, but
Don't smoke weed, because the next thing you know, you gonna be fucking in your garage with the gas cap off, just.
I didn't hear for some reason. I had already walked around the corner when he followed me and asked what I was doing in the garage this late. I was so shocked to see him, and trying to maintain balance in my head spinning, I simply replied, "Having a ciggy." He told me to go to bed because it was Sunday and I had to get up for school, so I obliged and went to bed, but I knew I was in no mood for sleeping. I lay awake, my mind still racing from the close encounter. I thought a lot that night and stayed awake to enjoy the beautiful crimson sunrise, and as it came up over the islands in the distance, the cool autumn air soothed my ravaged lungs, and it was then that I sat and decided there were much more important things in life. I don't know entirely what caused it, but I made a conscious choice that dawn and have never used inhalants again since that night, a choice which I believe may very well have saved my life. The consequence. About 6 months after my epiphany, I was expelled from school, after a friend and I were caught smoking cannabis behind horticulture block, which wasn't really a big deal to me, still young and dumb. I just hated school. Anyway, so fast forward after 8 months, after several odd jobs with several different temp agencies, I had finally found a job I enjoyed, was good at, and had plenty of new hookups. Things were really starting to look up for me, and I was just proud to have finally got my life back on track. I was making money and in good health, everything was choice. Then, it happened. I had been starting to develop back problems which had slowly been increasing in intensity over the last few days. Just shrugging it off, I had assured myself it was due to all the heavy lifting I had been doing at work, but deep inside I knew something wasn't right. Plus, it was getting worse and really beginning to impact my work. After taking the day off, the pain was getting really unbearable. My dad decided to call an ambulance to take me to a hospital, as I had begun to develop a weird rash and I couldn't even walk to the car. Soon enough, I was in the back of the ambulance, sucking back nitrous oxide and having a merry old time, totally oblivious to what was right around the corner. When I arrived at the hospital, I immediately had a nurse walk up and start asking me questions about my symptoms. She asked to look at my rash and took a blood sample. Then I was wheeled into the ward like a lamb to the slaughter. After about an hour or so of waiting, we saw the curtain open, and as soon as I saw the concerned look on the nurse's face, I knew my life was about to change forever. Your white cell count appears to be abnormally low. What do you think could be causing this? I asked. At this point, it appears you may have leukemia. I froze. It felt as though time stopped. The nurse...
Shit. The chemicals in that gasoline led to leukemia. Jesus Christ.
continued talking, but I was just tuned out. 1,000 different scenarios ran through my head, and I perished every time. Eventually, the nurse walked out and the walls crumbled in on me. I couldn't breathe. Eventually, my mother's sobbing snapped me out of suspended animation. I was so sure I was going to die, I began to prepare my mind for the cold embrace. I knew what leukemia was. Well, at least I thought I did at the time. And at that moment, I felt as though I literally had months left. I was still sobbing in my mother's arms when the nurse appeared again and informed my father, I was inconsolable, that they needed a bone marrow sample to fully diagnose which type of leukemia I had. At this point, I had no idea there were more than one type of leukemia. So they heavily sedated me, took the sample, and then I was wheeled into the children's oncology ward. I was told they have the highest survival rate, and that's where I spent the single most terrifying night of my life. I lay there contemplating my own mortality at the tender age of 16. I felt as though I was on the brink of death. My life had run its course, and it was my time to go. Not something anyone should have to even think about at that age. Needless to say, I didn't sleep a wink that night, despite several high doses of lorazepam and a continuous patient-controlled morphine drip, which I eventually had confiscated because I kept hammering the button. The next morning brought rays of shimmering hope into the dark, abysmal world I'd been brooding in all night. Just before noon, my oncologist came in and explained that the particular strain of leukemia I had is called ALL, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, quite easily curable and has a very high survival rate. It felt as though several tons were lifted from my shoulders. I was overjoyed. It was like I'd been given a second chance to live, and that's the way I still see it to this day. What I was feeling was indescribable. I had gone from preparing myself for death to just jumping for joy just to be alive. My oncologist spent several hours explaining my treatment phases to me, that I would have to have a 3-year-long course of chemotherapy to prevent it from coming back. This daunted me, but I was so stoked that I was going to live that I would have crawled a mile over broken glass to get rid of it. She also explained that if I had left it much longer, I would be facing a more malignant diagnosis, and that usually my age group, 16 and up, didn't fare too well with other types of leukemia. I felt so lucky that I had an easily treatable type, but also a deep empathy and sorrow for those others, one of which I would meet during the 2 weeks I initially spent in the ward. Then I asked the million-dollar question, what could have caused it? She explained they weren't entirely sure, but asked if I had been swimming near mangroves. I said no. And the very next question was, have you spent much time around solvent fumes at work? I froze. It suddenly appeared so obvious to me. No, not really, I replied. Why's that? Is that known to cause it? She explained that certain solvents, such as toluene, and as I recently found out, benzene, causes leukemia. I clicked and it suddenly made sense to me. I had brought it on myself. Although this might appear a bit controversial, here are the facts so you can make your own conclusion. From Wikipedia, benzene causes leukemia and is associated with other blood cancers and precancers of the blood. As a gasoline additive, benzene increases the octane rating and reduces knocking. The conclusion. So here I am, alive, well, active, and almost 2 years into my treatment. I lost all my hair a few months after starting chemo, and it's now grown back very thick and curly, albeit a bit slowly. I am now real keen to get back into work and have been job seeking the past few months. Being diagnosed with leukemia has been the scariest and most intense time of my life. It has changed me in a deep, profound way as I have gone from abusing my body and mind, making my parents' life a living hell, and just generally taking the great life I had for granted, and now to enjoying every day to its absolute fullest, respecting myself and others, and most importantly, I now know what it truly means to be alive. Personally, I feel this was a classic case of karma. I didn't give a flying fuck about myself or anyone else, and I took it all for granted. So the universe just dealt me a mean dose of cause and effect to kick my ass into gear. It's been quite a learning curve. Though thinking back on it, I wouldn't have swapped my experience for the world, because it has gave me something priceless, a deep respect for life, not just my own, but all those around me. As they say, what doesn't kill you can only make you stronger.
Man, that was definitely crazy. Obviously, gasoline isn't like a typical go-to drug, but Kinky Streets, I appreciate you for pointing out, not just what people do in Romania, but also the fact that in the burn pits, the U.S. military is definitely guilty of not taking care of veterans, knowing that those gases and those fumes cause a lot of health issues. But definitely good that this guy was able to survive. And I can definitely believe him that after something like that, your appreciation for life, not just your own life, but life in general, is absolutely going to go through the roof. So, yeah, that was definitely pretty crazy. So now we're gonna look at Kevin McCarthy, right? I mean, this interview is pretty ridiculous because it's like, George Santos, as we pointed out, really is useless to everybody, and the Republican Party at large wants to get rid of him. So it's not even like George Santos is like hugely popular within the Republican Party. He is not. And Kevin McCarthy. Well, I can't remember their names, but there were a few Republicans. I don't know if their names were mentioned in the article, but they were saying that they didn't want to kick. Or rather, they didn't want to block George Santos from committee assignments because of the precedent that it might set for future people who get in trouble for quote unquote allegations. But it's like, these aren't allegations. George Santos lies about literally everything. He can have on a blue shirt and he'll tell you it's red. But yeah, so I say all that to say, and we're going to watch this, and it's painful and it's ridiculous, but it's really stupid because it's like the Republicans, they're getting ready to do all these investigations. They're going to try to impeach everybody. They're going to do, but the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, the one who's supposed to be, the leader of the House, the strong one, you won't condemn George Santos, but you're going to go out. So it's these people. I mean, it's just so stupid.
But doesn't it further?
No, of course, we got to watch.
Good news, New Jersey. If you need health insurance, now is the time to get quality, affordable health coverage through.
Bear down credibility when you put someone who's under state, local, federal, and international investigation as a representative of your party on committees. I'm talking about George Santos, representative from New York.
We should have that discussion. So let's have that discussion. You want to bring up Santos, and let's talk about the institution itself, because I agree wholeheartedly that Congress is broken. And I think your listeners or viewers should understand what proxy voting was, because it never took place in Congress.
But I'm asking
before.
you about George Santos.
I know you asked me a question. Let me ask you.
Because you could put it to a vote.
You asked me a question. I'd appreciate if you let me answer. So let's go through this, because it's not one simple answer. Congress is broken based upon what has transpired in the last Congress. The American public wasn't able to come in to see us. People voted by proxy, meaning you didn't have to show up for work. Bills didn't have to go through committee. So what I'm trying to do is open the people's house back for the people so their voice is there, so people are held accountable. So now, as I just had in the last week, for the first time in 7 years, every member got to vote.
If you got a third of your caucus to vote to oust him, you could do so. You don't think you could get your Republicans to do that?
I wasn't finished answering the question. So if every single new person brought into Congress was
I wasn't finished answering the question.
Elected by their constituents, what their constituents have done has lent their voice to the American public. So those members can all serve on committee. Now, what I'm trying to do is change some of these committees as well. Like the Intel committee is different than any other committee.
So you're just not going to answer the question I asked?
Well, no, you don't get to question whether I answer it. You asked a question. I'm trying to get you through that.
I don't think you've said the name George Santos like once. Asked you a few
but you know
times.
what?
You're talking about proxy voting and other things.
But you started the question with Congress was broken, and I agreed with you. But I was answering the question of how Congress is broken and how we're changing it. So if I can finish the question that you asked me, how Congress is broken, I equated every single member that just got elected by their constituents, they have a right to serve. So that means that Santos can serve on a committee the same way Swalwell, who had a relationship with a Chinese spy. But they will not serve on intel.
They're wrapping
because
me
I
in the
think
control room because
well, that's unfortunate. I wish I could answer the question.
Now, again, the overall point, you know what I'm saying? The overall point that I was making about Kevin McCarthy is he's the Speaker of the House. A large portion of the Republicans want George Santos gone because there's really no use having him there because you can't trust him. Not just that, but he's so unpopular. It's just really of no benefit. And for Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the House, to not be able to condemn George Santos shows absolutely no strength. But yet they're about to do all these investigations, about to go after everybody. It's stupid. You know what I'm saying? Shit is ridiculous. I'm going to play this back real quick.
But doesn't it further wear down credibility when you put someone who's under state, local, federal, and international investigation as a representative of your party on committees? I'm talking about George Santos, representative from New York.
We should have that discussion. So let's have that discussion. You want to bring up Santos, and let's talk about the institution itself, because I agree wholeheartedly that Congress is broken. And I think your listeners or viewers should understand what proxy voting was, because it never took place in Congress
But I'm asking
before.
you about George Santos.
I know you asked me a question. Let me ask you.
Because you could put it to a vote.
You asked me a question. I'd appreciate if you let me answer. So let's go through this, because it's not one simple answer. Congress is broken based upon what has transpired in the last Congress. The American public wasn't able to come in to see us. People voted by proxy, meaning you didn't have to show up for work. Bills didn't have to go through committee. So what I'm trying to do is open the people's house back for the people so their voice is there, so people are held accountable. So
again, this has absolutely nothing to do with George Santos. And we're going to talk about Chris Christie in a minute, because he made a comment talking about how Donald Trump really can't win a general election, which he can't. I mean, pretty much everybody knows that. He doesn't. It's not even about the Republican support. Donald Trump doesn't have the support of independents. And, you know, as the Republican Party realizes that as things move forward, they're going to be attacking him. And Kevin McCarthy, man, Donald Trump is going to be on Kevin McCarthy's ass. You know he is. You know he is. Kevin McCarthy's about to get bullied for this, rightfully so. And rightfully so. Because it's like, if you motherfuckers can't condemn George Santos when your own party wants him gone, and you're the Speaker of the House, like, bruh, like, get the fuck out of here. But nah, this shit, that shit is hilarious. Because it's like, condemning George Santos is like the easiest thing for anyone to do, and you can't do that. But you're going to be out here doing all these investigations on motherfuckers like Hunter Biden, who is not in office. You're going to be talking about his laptop. Hunter Biden ain't got no position in government. This dude does. But you're like, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to mention his name. And while we on George Santos, we're going to talk about one more thing, because it's the never-ending chronicles. Mother Jones did an investigation, and lo and behold, it turns out that some of his donors weren't real. Because, of course. Oh, I just got a message that my videos I sent to Rebel HQ this morning, the video and the audio was out of sync, and I don't have time to re-record them. It's okay. Technology will fuck your money up sometimes. That's all right. So let's see what Mother Jones had to say about some of his people. In September 2020, George Santos' congressional campaign reported that Victoria and Jonathan Reger had each contributed $2,800, the maximum amount, to his first bid for a House seat. Their listed address was 45 New Mexico Street in Jackson Township, New Jersey. A search of various databases reveals no one in the United States named Victoria or Jonathan Reger. Jonathan Reger. Moreover, there's nobody by any name living at 45 New Mexico Street in Jackson. That address doesn't exist. There is a New Mexico Street in Jackson, but the numbers end in the 20s, according to Google Maps and a resident of the street. Santos's 2020 campaign finance reports also list a donor named Stephen Berger. as a $2,500 donor and said he was a retiree who lived on Brant Road in Brawley, California. But a spokesperson for William Brant, a prominent rancher and Republican donor, tells Mother Jones that Brant has lived at that address for at least 20 years, and neither he or his wife have made any donations to George Santos. I mean, and that's why I'm saying go back to Kevin McCarthy. It's like you can't condemn and kick this dude out. Like, come on, man. That shit's gonna look bad to your own people. It really is. Even the incredibly partisan, far right leaning, Looney Tune ass Republican Party, they want him out, and you're the leader of the party, and you're like, oh no, I don't want to say anything. Okay, so the last one we're gonna do for the day. And I'm going to be on Indisputable with Rashad Ritchie at 2:30 Eastern time. So I'm going to have to get ready for that in a minute. Chris Christie says Donald Trump can't win a general election. Oh, let me share it. My bad. I forgot to share it. Chris Christie says Donald Trump can't win a general election. And GOP is finally recognizing harm of loser candidates after 2022. I mean, the simple answer to this, you know what I'm saying? Yo, Galvatron, no, you're right, 100%. I literally said that in my video for Rebel HQ this morning, that apparently the audio and video were out of sync and can't be used. But I literally said that. Like, George Santos probably don't even need glasses for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, but yes, Chris Christie is 100% true. But I mean, again, like, really the crux of this is just that he doesn't have independence. It's really not more complicated than that. Donald Trump doesn't have independence, therefore he can't win. And we can go into why that is. You know, he's already served a term. People know what he's about. The Republican Party, even though they may not say it out loud as a whole, are ready to move on from him, but they don't know which direction to go necessarily. But Donald Trump, even if he won the Republican primary, which he likely will, he can't win a general election. Joe Biden could do what he did in 2020 and like stay in his house and not do nothing, and he would still win. And as far as it's looking, it's going to be Joe Biden up. I mean, why would Joe Biden not run again? Unless he just decides to drop out, he's going to run again, like most presidents do. Okay, Chris Christie predicted that he won't be successful. So what he said, I've said over and over again that he can't win a general election, Christie said Sunday. That's not speculation. That's based upon the polling that I was privy to pre the 2020 election and what we saw actually happen in the 2020 election. And it's only gotten worse since then. Facts. Then add to it what you saw happen in 2022. The election deniers losing across the country. Bad candidates like Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania dragging the entire Pennsylvania ticket down in a historic way. Kerry Lake, Blake Masters, Tim Mitchells, Christie said. We could go through the entire list. Loser, 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 loser. And I think Republicans are recognizing that 100%.
Never going to be president of the United States again?
Well, I've said over and over again that he can't win a general election. And that's not speculation. That's based upon the polling that I was privy to pre the 2020 election and what we saw actually happen in the 2020 election. And it's only gotten worse since then. Then add to it what you saw happen in 2022. The election deniers losing across the country. Bad candidates like Mastriano in Pennsylvania dragging the entire Pennsylvania ticket down in a historic way. Kerry Lake, Blake Masters, Tim Michaels, Tudor Jones. We could go through the entire list. Loser, 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 loser. And I think Republicans are recognizing that.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's really not more complicated than that. He just doesn't have the votes. And the only other person really who could go the distance in the Republican Party at the moment that I can think of is Ron DeSantis. But the problem with Ron DeSantis is we have yet to see if he's really going to run an effective campaign, which we don't know, you know. And Donald Trump has a lot less to lose than Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis has a future in politics ahead of him, where Trump not necessarily. Trump's been in office already. Ron DeSantis is like 30-something years younger than Donald Trump. But again, we don't know what type of campaign he's actually going to put forth. And so, you know, it's pretty much looking like Joe Biden's going to win again in 2024. But obviously it's still early and we have to see what's popping. But I appreciate everybody for joining me this morning. I got to get up off of here and handle some business. And I will be on, like I said, with Rashad Ritchie at 2:30 on Indisputable. So y'all have a good rest of the day. Let's have a good